Welcome to Orchestrate All the Things. I'm George Anatiotis, and we'll be connecting the dots together. Stories about technology, data, AI, and media, and how they flow into each other, shaping our lives.
The story of U.com is multifaceted and telling in many ways. U.com was founded in 2020 by Richard Socher, one of the leading natural language processing researchers in the world, to offer a better search experience to users and compete with Google. With a startup exit and a chief data scientist stint at Salesforce, Socher got the experience, network, and backing he needed to pursue his long-time ambition of taking on Google. That's something few people have tried, with moderate success. Socher diagnosed early enough that the way to success is by carving a niche for U.com. U.com focuses on serving knowledge workers in complex informational and action searches, elaborate queries, and queries that are really about accomplishing a task, respectively. In 2022, in the pre-ChatGPT era, Socher set out a course for U.com based on AI, apps, privacy, and personalization. In 2024, U.com is staying the course, but a few things have changed. In the GenAI era, the competition is borrowing pages from U.com's book. Not only have upstarts such as perplexity.ai sprung up, but Google itself is embracing the AI approach to search. U.com is making progress too. Since launching in November 2021, U.com has served 1 billion queries and has millions of active users, including from Fortune 500. The company's annual recurring revenue has grown by 500% since January 2024, and today U.com announced a 50 million Series B funding round, as well as a new team plan called Multiplayer AI. We caught up with Socher, discussed about the news, and took U.com for a spin.
I hope you will enjoy this. If you like my work on Orchestrate All the Things, you can subscribe to my podcast, available on all major platforms, my self-published newsletter, also syndicated on Substack, HackerNoon, Medium, and DZone, or follow Orchestrate All the Things on your social media of choice.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard Socher. I'm the CEO here at U.com, and we build an accurate productivity engine for knowledge workers.
Okay, that was really brief, which is good. So actually, the occasion for having this conversation today is that you're about to announce some news. Well, first, you're getting a new round of funding, and second, you're announcing somewhat of a switch in your business model. So I thought I would start with the funding news, and you have quite a list of backers there. The funding is led by Georgian, and you also have SPVA, which is the former SoftBank Ventures Asia, Salesforce Ventures, NVIDIA, DuckDuckGo, and Day One Ventures. And I thought I would just ask you to say just a few words for each of these backers, which I'm sure you have worked with probably personally. So, what would you say was the thing that got each one of them interested in backing you? And just to say in advance, I find NVIDIA and DuckDuckGo out of this list somewhat unexpected and particularly interesting. It's for a different reason.
Yeah, we're very excited for all our investors. Georgian has been an incredible partner already in our journey of the last few weeks. They have a very deep technical team that's helping with go-to-market as well. I think NVIDIA has seen kind of how we have innovated and out-innovated many in the field. We have brought large language models into a search engine context a year before ChatGPT came out, with essay writing, LLM widgets, with programming widgets that would write code for you if that's what you looked for. So we've been at that forefront for a while. We're the first to connect the search engine to a chat window so that the chat and large language models can have citations. And I think NVIDIA saw that innovation and then saw the combination of, now that we have innovation and revenue and are focused on both, they're very excited to join us, and we're very excited to have them. There's a lot more collaborations that I hope we get to announce in the future with them.
Okay. Um, I also found the fact that you got support from DuckDuckGo interesting because first, I don't think I've seen them uh, support any other venture previously to yours, and also that because of, well, in theory at least, they're kind of competition, right? So you must be doing something right if your competition is backing you.
We are not quite in the search engine market anymore. Uh, there
Hmm.
are a lot of questions that users ask that are quite fast and simple, navigational, where a chat answer engine doesn't quite shine. For instance, if you just ask, how old is Obama? When was Greece founded? What's the weather tomorrow? These kinds of questions you can get a very quick answer for, and it's hard to use LLMs to make that 10x better. Maybe make it 1 or 2x better for simple questions. What we found is that questions that are really complicated, that knowledge workers are asking in fintech, in marketing, in sales, for preparing a meeting, for writing a marketing campaign, for doing deep research in biotech or at a hedge fund, that is where we can actually provide a 10x better experience. Why? Because we have deep search expertise and deep LM expertise. So we're very excited to bring that technology to other companies in the business context. And when we do that, there are two lines of business. One is enterprise site licenses, where an entire company can make all their employees more productive. We really lean in. For larger companies, we also offer a consumption-based pricing model, so they don't pay for hype, they pay for actual usage with their employees. And we also offer APIs. And that latter one is particularly interested for DuckDuckGo. We share their values around privacy. We're very excited to work with them, and we're very excited that they've invested.
Okay, great. That's one answer that gives me a great segue to ask you something that was in my list anyway. So you basically very quickly described the kind of pivot that you had from being like a, so to say, direct competitor to the Googles of the world, so straight up search engine, to switching to a more sophisticated question answering system that targets a specific niche, so knowledge workers. And you have been doing that for the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, anyway. But now you're making this switch, let's say, to what you called the multiplayer AI thing. So I'm wondering, besides the obvious, which you already sort of sketched out, like giving enterprises like one access point to multiple employees instead of having like each person sort of bring their own AI, let's say. Uh, does that also mean that you're going to support features that enterprises are typically looking for, like security and access control and all of that?
That is exactly right. Yeah, we are getting single sign-on. We are just in. We've finished complying with all the SOC 2 compliance things, and are just waiting now a few more weeks to be in this official waiting period of SOC 2. And we're offering teams and enterprises ways to collaborate around AI, to start projects,
Mhm.
have massive context windows so that a custom agent that you built will know all the company context that it needs to know to be actually a useful, knowledgeable agent for your workflows.
Okay, so that also includes collaboration, not just, here's many accounts, go out and play, but people can actually work with each other. And presumably, what will they exactly be able to do? Will they be able to like collaboratively author workflows, or I don't know, prompts, or what
It would
exactly?
be easiest to just share my screen, but I haven't used this great video software before. But at a high level, what you can think about is that you can share your chats. Other people can continue those chats. You can upload files to a project that then everyone will have access to and can answer and ask questions about. And you can comment and continue the workflow that someone else may have started, and you all have a shared knowledge base as you're doing knowledge work.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, that definitely sounds like a collaboration. So like a shared workspace and many different artifacts, I presume, that people can I can work on that workspace.
That's right. And if you want, I can share with you some screenshots afterwards too.
Yes, yes, that would be great indeed. So I was wondering, obviously, in order, to get all those investors on board, you must have shown them, your business plan and your growth already, which, by the way, seems to be coming along pretty nicely. You have some Fortune 500 clients, and your annual recurring revenue, you said, has grown by 500% since the beginning of the year. So it seems to be going well, in other words. What I'm wondering, however, is, and that's something that others have come across before you, obviously, it's one thing to sell B2C, let's say, and it's another thing to sell B2B, so enterprise sales. And I'm wondering if your sales is ready for that, basically, because the requirements are different.
Yeah, we've actually hired some amazing folks in the team for enterprise sales, and it's just been really wonderful seeing them in action. And I've had been at Salesforce myself in the past, so I wasn't doing sales there as the chief scientist, but I've observed and learned a lot about very effective sales teams. And so yeah, we're excited to have expanded the team. We'll make some announcement around that probably in a few weeks as well. And it's a new muscle, but it seems like there's a lot of market pull. What we actually found is that a lot of companies had tried to build their own prototypes, the really big ones. Some just don't have the resources, and we can help them build the first version. Some larger customers had actually built prototypes similar to U.com when they tested out the competition, and then were just dismayed by how inaccurate that is. You can quickly in GenAI hack up a prototype, but it's very hard to build something that really works at scale every day, very accurately, has strong search, strong LLM orchestration, and puts it all together in a package that you can rely on in your day-to-day work. And so a lot of those companies that have tried in the past with other competitors or their own prototypes are then coming to us and seeing the difference. And so we do have what is called hybrid of product-led growth, where people can try U.com out and be wowed by its accuracy, and then also sales-led growth.
Okay, so I know, because I've actually played a little bit with the product myself, that you have different modes in your user interface. You have something called Smart, a mode called Smart, another one called Genius, and you have another mode called Research. Would you like to just quickly explain what each one does and how it's different?
Yeah, that's a great question, and maybe at some point it will get merged, but you can think of these as very different levels of capabilities. Smart mode will give you a quick, smart, accurate answer. It won't go into too much detail. It won't give you a huge research report, but it will be fast. It'll be multimodal. It'll have images and things like that. Genius is for much more complicated questions. And I wish I could share my screen with you. Do you think that will work in your video?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
All right. So let me.
Let me try this one.
All right. Amazing. So can you see? Yeah. So here
Yes.
is an example of what a genius mode can do, and this is a easy to understand example. It's not deep in someone's work context, but it shows you the power of what's possible in Genius Mode. What should be the initial investment in a compounding interest index fund for my 1-year-old child to ensure that it fully covers the cost of her Stanford tuition by the time she completes high school? Imagine the complexity of that answer and what is needed to really get this right. And what Genius Mode will realize is that it will have to do multiple different queries and put all of these facts together. It will have to look for Stanford tuition, the expected increase in that tuition, the expected annual return of an index fund, the number of years until a child goes to college, which is 1 year old. Also, no pressure for the kid. And so you can see here that this is exactly what it does. It goes out on the web and searches for the cost of Stanford tuition. It has nice, clean citations for everything. Then it goes out and looks for the expected annual increase of that tuition based on historical trends. Then it will go out and look for annual S&P 500 returns, which you've never mentioned, right? It just said it's a compounding interest fund. Realizes that that's right around 10%, and then realizes that it'll probably have another 17 years or so to do this. And then instead of making up a bunch of numbers, which a lot of the competition does, or not being helpful, it actually takes all of those facts and does the right math by programming all of those facts into code and then actually executing that code and then giving you an answer. That is just light years ahead of what you will see anywhere else. So that's
Okay.
Genius. And then lastly, well, I guess I'll share with you also research mode. Research mode will write very careful research reports for you. Sometimes you want a quick answer. If you know you want a very carefully researched longer report on a subject that will do literally 10 plus queries, rephrase your input and your question into multiple different searches, and then find you the right answer, then research mode is for you. And we're realizing that we call them modes. Nowadays, people call them agents, right? These are agents that have the ability to search when they need to and perform that search action. They can code when they need to and then decide also to run that code. They can ask you follow-up questions too. So these agents are quite powerful, and there's all kinds of things you can do, including, for instance, have an interactive session with such an agent that will help you, for instance, write SEO optimized content.
All right. Well, another thing that struck me about how U.com works and also the user interface was that it seems like you're also acting as an intermediate layer for other language models. I know that because you've mentioned in other interviews that you also have your own in-house language models that you've trained, but you also offer, in addition to that, you also offer access to other language models such as the GPT family or Claude or a bunch of others, really. And at first, to be honest, I was having trouble understanding like why would you want to do that. But then again, reading through some of your some of the things you've said in those interviews, it struck me that it seems like what you're effectively doing is something like a mixture of experts approach. So you said you're routing each user query to one or potentially more of those models, and then synthesizing the results that you get out of those according, to obviously you use some kind of heuristics to determine which model is the best to address its query to. And I was wondering if indeed my impression is correct, if this is what you do. And by extension, this is also, since you're doing it anyway, I guess you figured that it may make sense to offer access to those models to your users as well. And then the actual challenges of doing that, because, well, it's an approach that many users, many of us also use, in real life. But actually, engineering that and at the scale that you need to do that for to offer a service like this, I'm pretty sure is no easy feat.
That's exactly right. We believe that U.com, part of its job is to help people and businesses to be future proof. GenAI moves very, very quickly. And we've noticed that a lot of our customers feel like they're locked in when they write a they sign a big annual contract with one of the foundational model providers. And then a month later or a few weeks later, another better LLM comes out, and now they're stuck with that original foundational model. So we decided every crisis and opportunity, we want to enable our customers to basically be always at the state of the art by giving them direct access to these models. And then on the plus side, we also in our own modes and these powerful research and genius agents, we are able to essentially orchestrate these LMs and use a different LM for different kinds of questions to give the most accurate answers. For instance, now Claude from Anthropic has actually outperformed OpenAI when it comes to programming. And so we can route these different kinds of questions that require programming to a different LM.
Okay. And well, another challenge that comes with dealing with that many models, and actually, even with the same model, that, as you said, all models keep evolving over time, and some of them pretty fast as well. And so, what people are finding out, among other things, is that the different prompts that they use to communicate with those models, and people have actually invested lots of time and effort into crafting and fine tuning those prompts. So what they're finding out is that oftentimes when new model versions are released, though these prompts start working well, or sometimes they even start working at all. And I'm sure that's a problem you must have come across as well. And so I'm wondering what your solution to this problem is, and how do you manage your prompt engineering?
Yeah, so I think there are indeed, there's a lot of complexity. And the way we're thinking about this is that you might not have only one prompt. Part of our orchestration layer is actually to do what is called dynamic prompting. So, and of course, on the fundamental level, we have to do this for every query. For every query that comes in, we need to understand whether you want to actually ask a factual question or whether you want to have the model actually hallucinate something. So, for example, if I ask, I'm about to go into a big meeting with Nike, and I want to ask about their executive team and the business and the updates and how much revenue they're making and things like that, then I don't want it to hallucinate, and I want to have very accurate citations for every fact that I take into this meeting. Now, if I then afterwards ask for writing a poem to my wife, I don't really need a citation for every line of that poem. And each will require different things, and you have already this dynamic prompting where you allow the model to decide to look for facts on the internet and then feed those into the prompt. All of those are things that we need to accommodate for, and we basically abstract away. And it's a little bit like self-driving cars in the sense that it's very easy to build this demo that will drive on the highway, and it's a beautiful wide open highway, good weather in California. And you're like, look, we can have a self-driving car. But then it takes many more years to actually get that self-driving car to be in the city, driving every day without any issues. And it's similar to doing knowledge work and providing very accurate answers. It's really a never ending type of work, but we believe because we've been at it longer than anyone else in the world, we've now gotten to the highest point of accuracy.
And well, speaking of accuracy, which is a point that you also mentioned in the updates that you're about to release, and I understand that it's central in what you do anyhow. And so another question I had was precisely around accuracy. And so what kind of techniques do you apply to be able to to increase accuracy in the replies that you have? Some people are using various variances on RAG. Other people are using context windows. Other people are using combination of those. And you obviously also mentioned already that you work with workflows. And what you just said, if none of the agents in your workflows is 100% accurate, then obviously the end result is not going to be accurate as well. So you need to increase the accuracy on each and every step until you manage to have a pipeline that will give you the right result. So what kind of techniques do you apply to increase accuracy?
I could talk about that for hour and put my old professorial hat back on from Stanford days and answer that question in all its detail. But at a high level, there are several dozens of modules. There's intent classification when a user asks a question. There's query rewriting. Imagine the user asks a question, the answer includes Salesforce, and then you ask, oh, who's their CEO? If you just send who's their CEO to your search backend, it's not going to do anything useful. So you need to rephrase based on the context of the whole conversation, the kind of query you want to send to your search backend. Then, of course, making search accurate is a non-trivial engineering task. And as you can see now from some of our investors, we have folks that have been very impressed by our search capabilities and the technology we've built there. Then you want this whole thing to be up to date. You need to do dynamic prompting. You need to do LM orchestration. So there's a lot of different aspects that will go into making this technology.
Okay. So I understand we need to wrap up. So I'll just give you one final question, and that's again on accuracy. So as it happened, I was writing an article this week, and I wanted to do a very quick piece of research for a quote. It's a quote attributed to Umberto Eco, which goes like, "There's no news in August." So having planned this conversation, the quote goes, "There is no news in August," and it's attributed to Umberto Eco. So I thought it would make for a nice, quick little test if I tried uh, to, to do like a prompt around this and test it with U.com and Perplexity. So I did that and I tested with both, and I have to say that both replies were different. Both got some aspects right, but also both got some aspects very, very wrong. So that made me wonder, okay, so how do you actually objectively evaluate such a thing as accuracy with competing LLMs, or in that case, services based off of LLMs? I know that's not a very easy question to answer, but well, if you're making accuracy as a central point, you have to at least have given it some thought.
Yeah, so we actually have done a bunch of. Let me put this question into U.com here too. So we have done a lot of extensive evaluations. You can actually go on blogs.u.com or blog.u.com and see how we evaluate it and do user studies. We ask users what is the answer you prefer, do the research and verify which answer is more accurate. And we're much more accurate than either ChatGPT or some of our smaller perplexing competitors.
Okay, cool.
You can read on this
All
on the
right.
blog.com.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time, and hope it was a good and refreshing wake-up call in a way.
Yeah, that was very fun. Great questions. And here's maybe just as a parting gift. I don't know if I said this correctly, but there's no use in August. Or did you say maybe news? I don't know. I didn't hear it. So, but it does, yeah, correct it to there's no news in August. I understood it incorrectly. So gave the wrong
All right.
query. It correctly got this right, and then yeah, there's basically here. you can read up on all of these things, and seems reasonable. But I'll send it to you, and you can double click. But that is research mode for you, and you can see basically on a lot of these where the facts come from. And as you scroll down, you even see exactly where it comes from. So it scrolls down to exactly where it found each fact. And that is something that you see rarely, or I don't see anywhere else doing that over the entire web and going to the sources and exactly showcasing where it found each fact. So if something is not correct, you can actually know, well, it's from this particular website. And hence, U.com and generally knowledge engines won't be able to know exactly what every website says and whether it's actually correct or not. But you can quickly trust and then verify very, very efficiently compared to anyone else, where you just say, someone's website, maybe it said it, and then half the competition or most of the competition just fakes half of their citations. And so there's actually no connection between the citation and the fact that it's supposed to help you verify. So yeah, I'll send you that link too on research mode, and it looked very
And then I can also send you what exactly I was looking for and how I framed it, and well, the parts that it got right and the parts that it got wrong, and so we can exchange notes.
That sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, George.
So a little bit of bonus track. Here's the research that I referred to in the conversation with Richard, looking up a quote attributed to Umberto Eco. The quote is that there is no news in August. And here's how I framed it and tested it with Perplexity and U.com. I used a prompting technique, it's called role-playing. So I instructed the agent to act as a journalist with 20 years of experience, because this is a role that I thought would be helpful in the context of what I'm trying to achieve. And I asked the agent to confirm whether Umberto Eco really said that there is no news in August and find a reference for that. So here's how Perplexity handled that. I used the Pro feature in Perplexity. So it first did a little bit of query expansion. So based on the description I provided, it formulated different queries and tried those with a number of different sources, presumably doing some kind of web search. And in the answer that I got, it started with a brief biography for Umberto Eco, formed as an info box here. And the answer was that yes, Umberto Eco did in fact say that there is no news in August, and this quote is confirmed in multiple sources. So, so far so good, but here's where things start going a little bit wrong. So I'm given 3 different sources to verify the authenticity of this quote. Unfortunately, 2 out of 3 of those sources are just not right. So the first one is an article behind a paywall. And as you can see, I don't have access to the entirety of this article. However, there is a reference here, the notion that no news happens in August, as Umberto Eco commented, and so on. So it's debatable whether that counts as a verification for the quote. It's not a direct quotation, it's rather a reference. So yeah, I'm not sure we can count it as a correct citation. The second one is plain wrong. It's a Guardian article. It's this one is not behind a paywall, so you can read it in its entirety. However, if I search for the word August, and it does give 10 actual Umberto Eco quotes. The problem is that none of these 10 quotes is the one that I'm looking for. So if I do a quick search for the word August, it's not even contained in this text. So there's no reference to August whatsoever in this page, so it's just an erroneous citation. The third one The third reference I'm given here is actually the good one. So it's a page that lists actual Umberto Eco quotes, and yes, this one does actually contain the one I'm looking for. There is no news in August. So, long story short, Perplexity got it kind of right. It got the correct answer, but it gave me one entirely wrong reference. Another reference that is kind of right, but not really. And out of those three, the final reference was the correct one. Now let's see how U.com fared. I provided the exact same query formulated in the exact same way, and U.com responded by doing the same thing basically. So it started out with a little bit of query expansion, and it also gave me a short bio for Umberto Eco in the beginning of the reply, and then it its answer is a little bit different in terms of structure. So it's I would say it's maybe a bit better structured. However, it also suffers from the same issues. Basically, it provides sources that are not really that don't really correspond to what I'm looking for. So the first one is an interview supposedly published by the Paris Review in 2020. And the problem here is that, well, first, the interview was not really published in 2020. I don't know where that's coming from, but you can clearly see here that it says summer 2008. Then, as Richard mentioned, one of the things that U.com does is that it highlights the part of the reference it provides that it thinks actually answers the query. So in this case, it's the first sentence of this article, which unfortunately is entirely irrelevant. This has nothing to do with Umberto Eco having said, this quote about August having no news. Now, if I search for the word August on this page, I actually find one reference in the text, but it has nothing to do with, again, Umberto Eco having said this or not. It just describes, it's a description given by the journalist writing the article. And then there's a number of other references on that page. As you can see, all of those are here on the sidebar, and all of those are articles that happened to have been published in August. So I guess that threw U.com off, and for some reason it's presumed that, well, since there's a number of occurrences of the specific word August in this article, and it's an interview with Umberto Eco, then it must mean that it's a quote that I'm looking for. But no, unfortunately, that's not the case. I also have a number of other references, so about Eco's perspective on media and news, and Eco's commentary on false narratives, and these are used to kind of justify, to give more context basically as to Eco's views on false narratives and so on. And this, you could say, it's useful in a way. It's used as context to justify why Eco could possibly have said that. However, this is not really what I'm looking for. Well, yes, it's feasible that Umberto Eco might have said that, but there is no actual reference of this quote in either of those pages. So unfortunately, that's still not what I'm looking for. No. So, conclusion, unfortunately, even though I was provided a rather interesting context, the answer I got was actually wrong, and the citations were wrong as well. So yes, it is true that U.com will provide good context, and it will also give you the precise part of the reference that in which it believes that what you're looking for lies. However, you shouldn't really trust the answer 100%.
Thanks for sticking around. For more stories like this, check the link in bio and follow Link Data Orchestration.